Coming from the original Mavic Pro and not owning a Mavic 2 or ever flying one or an Air 2S, I had to know, was the Mavic 3 worth the upgrade? So I set out to YouTube. I watched all the reviews, read all the articles, watched all the reviews again, to the point where there was only one thing left to do. So I pulled the trigger. This is what I came up with. So my opinion on the Mavic 3 may differ from most, as I never owned the Mavic 2 or the Air 2S. So to be fair, I just want to put that out there that, you know, I haven't had any experience with either of those drones. However, I have been flying the Mavic Pro, the original, for about 5 years now. DJI did not send me the Mavic 3, nor am I receiving any compensation for this review. I think it is important to say that because I think I may be having a more positive experience than maybe most others have expressed. I will mention that I only flew the Mavic 3 2 or 3 times before I updated it to the latest firmware, which is where it really became a complete drone, or more complete drone. That being said, I will touch on a few things that I have had issues with the drone. I'm not going to get too far into the technical specs of this thing, as I'm sure by now everybody knows them. If not, you can find videos all over YouTube that'll tell you all they'll nerd out for you. So the main reason I'm even doing this review is just to let somebody who's maybe coming from the Mavic Pro, the original, and wants to, you know, hey, do I need to get the Mavic 2? Well, there's reviews you can go watch for that one, or the Air 2S, or you can see what the experience is here that I've had coming from the Mavic Pro to the Mavic 3. I probably went about purchasing the drone a little different than most. I debated heavily on whether to go with the Cine or the regular, as I wanted the ProRes HQ, as I do most of my editing, well, all of my editing on a Mac and in Final Cut Pro. However, it just didn't make sense when in reality my Mac handles H.264 and H.265 without a problem. And really, my take on it was how much of my videos are going to be drone footage. I do have another channel where I do a lot of drone footage. How much do you trust these the guide lanes?
Dude, I run wide open.
It's with my drone company that I have, where we travel and just, you know, just get drone shots of wherever we're at. But either way, my computer doesn't have a problem handling those files, whether they're big or small. Most of the time, especially on this channel, those files will be small. But everything else, like what I'm recording right now, is on a Sigma FP with an Atomos recorder, shooting ProRes or recording ProRes. So I do like using ProRes, but it just it's such a small percentage with the drone of what I'm doing. It just wasn't worth the price difference. It really wasn't. The biggest issue I saw with the Cine version was the transferring of files with the internal SSD. Not the internal SSD itself, but the process of getting your information off of it onto your computer. You know, to me, I don't want to come home and charge the batteries, which could take over an hour, you know, to charge one. From some of the reviews I've seen, you may need more than one battery if you've got a full SSD. If you have a full SSD, but you can fill the thing up shooting Apple ProRes. We all know that. So my issue was I don't want to come home and charge this battery and wait to charge the batteries just to try to transfer it off and run out of battery and have to stick another battery in it. How realistic is that? How does it happen? I don't know, but it seemed like it did from the reviews I saw, so I didn't want to deal with that. It just wasn't worth it to me. This to me was the biggest reason in me making the decision to go with the regular Mavic 3. I know there are those people that have to have ProRes, using it professionally or for customers. I'm not one of those, at least not yet. So I had a dilemma. I didn't want the Fly More combo because I don't need the bag. I have a bag. But I wanted the RC Pro and I didn't want the Cine version. So what I did was I bought the drone, bought 2 more batteries, the RC Pro, and the battery hub charger. Oh, and DJI ND filters, the low number set. I opted for the RC Pro mainly because it drove me absolutely crazy to have to take my phone and stick it in that little controller every time. Running a business, I need my phone. I need to answer it. I need to talk on it. I don't need to be flying drones with it. So, although it worked pretty well, I will say, with the Mavic Pro, I didn't like it. So I thought I'd just go ahead and upgrade the controller this time around. So I have seen a lot of people hating on the Mavic 3 controller that comes with the Mavic 3. And although I bought the RC Pro, I did get the chance to use it a few times before the RC Pro came. I would have to agree that DJI could have done a better job with this controller, the original one. There's no reason this drone should have shipped or should ship with that level of controller. And like others have said, they could have at least made it the same color, you know? I thought that was just ridiculous. It may sound stupid, but it just doesn't even feel like they tried when it comes to the controller that ships with the drone. Moving on to the RC Pro, I would say I like it a lot better with all of its additional features. However, when it comes to the controller, the most important part to me is the feel of the sticks. And with the RC Pro, there is literally no resistance when it comes to the sticks. This is where the RC Pro lost me. There should be some natural resistance felt in the stick movement, but there is literally none in the RC Pro. In fact, the one thing I like better about the original controller that ships with it is that there is some resistance. That being said, I still think the RC Pro is worth the money. To me, for the sheer fact that I don't have to use my phone. That was worth it to me. To some, this may not be a big deal, but it drives me crazy. I can't say whether one controller transmits better than the other, as I didn't really test out the original one. I've heard some say that the original one transmits better and further. I would say that I could believe that because I'm not impressed with the RC Pro. Several times it's lost transmission, video transmission at least, when I didn't really think it should have. And I don't fly too far out there. You know, I like to see the drone because a lot of time I'm getting shots that are close to something, or technical shots. So far I'm not really impressed with the transmission on the RC Pro. Now, just because it's not the same as advertised, it's not really disappointing because neither was the Mavic Pro for me. They say it goes so far, and it never goes that far. Physically, will the drone fly that far? Yes, it will. But will it transmit video? No, it will not, in my experience. I think a big improvement coming from the, at least like to do with the controller, A big improvement is the ability to switch to Cine mode or Sport or any of them on the controller. Now I know you could switch to Sport on the original controller, but the new Cine mode, or even to get into tripod mode, on the previous drones, I think you had to go in the app. But being able to go to that slow speed mode just by the switch right there on the controller, I really like that. I use it a lot. I do wish Cine mode was a lot slower and more precise than it is, but it's still usable. I'm also pretty sure tripod mode is going to make its way back at some point because the demand is just there. It's all over YouTube. I think they advertise it as 47 minutes of flight time. I haven't timed it, but I can say that it's much longer than the Mavic Pro. I'm not going to go to the trouble to time it. I don't care to. I mean, it's just way more flight time than I've needed so far. There may be some people that need the 40 to 47 minute difference that might be there. If it flies for 40 minutes instead of 47 as advertised, to me that's not a big deal because it's still way more than we had before. But some people may need that 40 to 47 in professional atmosphere. I'm not there. So far I haven't picked up a third battery yet. I am sure the day will come when I need it, but I am pleased so far with the flight time. It allows you to not feel that bit of pressure when you're trying to get shots and you're not rushing it. You can play around more in the air. It literally improves the overall experience of flying it, just having that extra time. So coming from the Mavic Pro, the camera on the Mavic 3 is obviously a massive upgrade. This is the main reason I wanted to purchase the drone and upgrade to begin with. I don't necessarily feel the need of shooting 5K, but I'm glad it's there. I'm glad it's capable of it. I was more excited about the sensor size and the ability to collect more information, actually knowing about photography. I'm probably within my first year still of understanding aperture, shutter speed, things like that. I understand it now, but I didn't for years. So it is exciting to have a drone that allows me to adjust all that and play with that, and just more of a professional setup for sure. Saying that though, I don't really feel the need to color grade the footage coming out of this drone. That may be because I'm just not near as picky as some people, but it looks amazing in the regular color mode. I do like that it has the D-Log and the color assist, so that you can, if case by case basis. I'm happy with the normal color mode coming out of the drone. In fact, everything you see in this video was shot in 4K, 24p, normal color. With an ND filter of some sort. I'm not a pixel peeper by any means, and I'm probably not as picky as most people. Like I said, I'm somewhat new to photography, so I don't really know how far you can push this camera compared to some others, I would say. To me, the footage looks great for what I use it for, and I'm extremely impressed with its low light capabilities compared to the original Mavic Pro especially. So I didn't think that I would use this at all when I first got the drone, and for the most part I would not use it. I would not use the footage, even on YouTube when it's zoomed in. So I guess I'll mention some technical stuff here, just in case you don't know. The telephoto lens, or as they call it, the zoom lens, it starts out at 7x, which is I think 162 millimeter. You get up to 4 times zoom on the regular lens, the main camera lens, and then it flips over to 7, and that's an optical zoom. That 1 in the regular camera to the 7 in the telephoto lens is an optical zoom, and that's it. That's the only optical you get. Everything else is digital. So like I said, I wouldn't really use it for much unless it's just a 7x, but even then you got a 1/2-inch sensor, you got a smaller sensor, you're collecting less data. It's nowhere near the capabilities of the main camera, but it still does provide a decent image at 7x, and it gives it a really cool parallax effect. It looks pretty badass, honestly. But for practical purposes, this thing, I use it a lot. Like for scouting livestock, scouting for livestock. If we're loading cattle or working cattle one day and we can't find a couple of them, it works great, which we do a lot. Scouting different areas of bigger real estate properties, trying to find different things to shoot to sell the property. It works really well. And really, to me, it's just kind of a glimpse into the future of what is to come on future drones. And it's pretty cool to be able to play around with two different cameras and have the ability that telephoto ability. There's give and take with everything. You know what I'm saying? If the camera was as capable as people want it to be, then the drone would probably have to be much bigger. And then again, if you have two cameras, you're always going to have one that's better than the other. It's just the way it is. There's really not much to say other than this thing is kind of odd at first, but it actually works pretty good, better than I thought it would. The best thing about it is it does protect the gimbal. It does a great job with that. It fully covers it, but even better to me, which was kind of a pain in the butt with the older drone, is when you're storing it in its case or its bag, those props fling around. Well, with this, it, most of the time, protects the props and keeps them from swinging around while you're trying to put it in the bag. So, I mean, for the most part, it works pretty good. It is weird looking. I thought I would hate it, but it does a good job. Or I will say, if it's a tight squeeze to get it in your bag or your box or your case, you got to kind of keep your finger on that magnet clip, the way it attaches, the way it secures, or it'll fling off of there. Not a big deal, man. But, you know, if it were harder to get undone, then everybody would complain about that. So far the drone's done everything I've asked it to. I even crashed it the other day into a bush or a tree. It fell on its back. I went over, picked it up, dusted it off, set it back upright, and it never powered off, so I just left it on and launched it to see if it would launch, and it did. I was actually trying to do the dolly zoom effect while flying backwards. I must say you have to really watch where you're going when you're doing this in reverse, because you're not where you think you are. Anybody who's tried it knows what I'm talking about. The drone is pretty steady. It did a really good job in tight spots. Even when the wind was up, it's obviously a lot quieter than the Mavic Pro. It's got like everybody says, it's got a deeper sound to it, which makes it a little quieter. Overall, the flight is pretty similar to the Mavic Pro. I mean, it does a good job. It does what you expect it to do when you're manually controlling it. Like I said previously with the RC Pro, I wish the sticks had some resistance, because that would improve the flight quality massively. It would just give it a whole nother feel. It would be smoother, but if you're an experienced pilot, you can overcome it. You just got to be a little more precise. So videos are starting to come out more and more about the Mavic 3 taking a while to acquire satellites. So I thought I might as well mention this while I'm at it and cover my experience with it. Before updating the drone to the latest firmware, I used it a few times and I didn't have an issue. It worked just like the Mavic Pro, the original Mavic Pro. 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds I had at least 12. So I had recorded my home point, I was off flying. But literally the next flight after I updated it, it took up to 4 minutes to get 10 to 12 satellites and record the home point, and sometimes even longer. At first I didn't think anything of it. I don't know, I just thought it was just one of those, just something weird happening, maybe where I was at, but I just took it to a trip down to the hill country, hundreds of miles away, and it did the same thing all over that place that it does all over the place here at home. Now honestly, I've never really waited for the home point to record with the Mavic Pro. I would just fly it, not record, you know, I mean, the home point will record somewhere, but I don't use return to home. I don't use obstacle avoidance. I don't use any of that stuff, so I wasn't worried about it. But I will say the more reviews I watched studying the Mavic 3, I would hear about flyaways. I'm not real familiar with them. I don't know anything about them, honestly. All I know is apparently it's a problem. So with this drone, I decided to be a little more responsible and stop doing that. So I have waited for it to acquire satellites, but I have found that pretty quickly it'll get 4 to 5 to 6 satellites, maybe 7. Once you have those, it'll let you take off. If you take off and hover at 6 feet, or wherever, 6, 7 feet, that's just where I hover when I take it off. It will collect up to 10 to 12 satellites a lot quicker than if you're just sitting on the ground waiting. And then it'll record the home point, then I just go. I feel like this is a safe way to do it. If the drone can still fly away, somebody tell me. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but it collects those extra satellites to record the home point much quicker if you're hovering in the air for some reason, in my experience. Again, I don't really know how important it is flyaway wise to let the drone record the home point, but I figure as much as these things are costing these days, you're probably better safe than sorry. At least that's the way I'm going to approach it from now on. Satellite acquisition issue is not that big of a deal to me, mainly because it wasn't a problem before the update, and I know they can fix it. So I'm sure the next firmware update comes out, they'll fix it, and it'll probably be sooner than later because it's starting to get all over YouTube. I know they can fix it. If my Mavic Pro can do it in 30 seconds, then this thing has the hardware to do it. In fact, I mean, we all know, we witnessed it before the update, so I don't think it's that big of an issue. It's a pain for some people, but it's part of new products, in my opinion. For the most part, I think anything negative I've mentioned so far is really not that big of a deal to me, and is fairly manageable. So I feel like I have less bad to report about this drone than others, mainly because I upgraded from the Mavic Pro. I'll say it again, I mean, that's where I'm coming from, the Mavic Pro, as opposed to the Mavic 2 or 2S, which I hear were great drones. That being said, there are definitely a couple things I've noticed with the Mavic 3 during my time so far with it that I would say are negatives. Definitely are a problem. The first one I'll mention is the gimbal. In general, it does a great job, but specifically when I'm turning left to right or going side to side, and it's intermittently, it's not all the time, obviously. It's actually somewhat rare, but it does it. And when it starts doing it, it seems to keep doing it until it stops. It sticks. It's almost like it goes in first person view, and it follows the drone. It stays on the same axis as the body of the drone. As far as I know, there's no button or setting to make this happen. I could be doing something wrong, but like I said, it's intermittent. So if it was a setting or a button, it wouldn't be intermittent. To me, this is a big deal. You can't be out there shooting and have your gimbal doing what it wants. It's big enough that you notice it when it does it to me. Now, I pay pretty close attention when I'm shooting because I'm trying to get shots perfect. I don't want to do them more than once. Now, if it was slightly doing this and you didn't notice it, which it can, that's the bigger problem, because when you don't see it and you got your shots and you get back in post, now all your stuff, all your footage is trash. So to me, this is a big problem that needs to be fixed. And it could just be my drone. I don't know. Y'all tell me. Are you having the same problem? Put it in the comments. I'd be interested to know. Number 2 is horizon tilt. Never noticed it on the Mavic Pro, the original one. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Like I said, I'm not that picky. I'm a lot more picky with this drone than I was the original one, but at least I'm looking for more things to be wrong with it. But horizon tilt is definitely an issue, almost all the time, so far with the Mavic 3. So not sure why I'm having that issue with such an improved product. That seems like something pretty simple to fix. And maybe it will be fixed. Maybe it's a firmware thing. We'll see. Number 3, I honestly think, and I'm sure so many people are going to disagree with me on this, but it's annoying to me. The return to home to me is just, you don't even need it. There was a time I lost my drone and return to home didn't work. It just blew away. It didn't work because it couldn't fight the wind. I'm sure it would have worked, but I actually found the drone with the GPS inside the app. It was a little bit involved, but I found the drone 4 miles away. Pretty crazy. That was with my Mavic Pro, not the Mavic 3. Now, like I said, this is my personal experience. Like the other day with the Mavic 3, I'm flying 2 feet above the ground, filming a pathway very slowly in the woods, and I'm right next to a river. 4 feet next to a river to my left, and I hit 10% battery. Well, I knew where my battery was. Most of the time I do, and if not, it lets me know. So I hit 10% battery. The drone launched straight up in the air before I could stop it. Been trying to return to home, and damn near took out 3 trees. I don't know how it didn't hit them. I don't know if obstacle avoidance comes on during return to home because I have it turned off. I don't know if it automatically comes on or not. That'd be interesting to know. If you know, put it in the comments. I don't know, but I doubt it does. And I got really lucky that it didn't hit those trees and then just fall off in the river. And then that was it. That'd be it. The drone would be gone. I know as the pilot, okay, I've got 10% battery. I'm 2 feet off the ground. If I needed to land this thing, I can land it right where I'm at. I don't need to launch up through the trees and come back to the damn home point. So that's pretty annoying. I could see how that would cost somebody their drone. I guess ultimately that's pilot error, but I just don't like it. I don't like the return to home. I don't care for it. I'd rather fly everything manually. If you liked this video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell for more videos like this one and maybe a future update.